We've got a big milestone here. I am now 1/3 of the way through Famidaily. Just 694 episodes more to go. And the game for this 33% milestone is Yokai Dochuki, one of the quirkiest games we're going to find. But before I get into that, my cartridge is a good opportunity to talk a bit about how Namco packaged their games. For one thing, after 4 years, Namco has changed their trade dress. The cartridge labels Namco had before were photographs of the game being played, with the logo and a drawing of the main character layered on top of it. That switched with Namco Classic when they switched to a completely drawn label. And then there's the stickers. Namco's cartridges came with no label on top of the game. Most Famicom carts don't have labels on top of them, but in Namco's case, they had a place for a label on top. In the box, you'd get a sheet of labels with 3 different options of what you could put on top. One with some character graphics and the logo, one with the title of the game in plain text, and one with a blank for you to write whatever you wanted on. Namco would eventually start including other stickers with their games too. Because of this, you'll find Namco carts with a few different labels on top. The ones using the blank label seem to be the rarest. You'll also find that the kids in the 1980s had a bad tendency to peel off those stickers and slap them anywhere on the cartridge. And that's why my copy of Yokai Dochuki has that strange label at the top. Yokai Dochuki was an arcade game. It seems to have been kind of popular in Japan, or at least well remembered. So naturally Namco had to bring it to a home console, the PC Engine. It was the first third-party release on the PC Engine, and as such, it signaled Namco pushing away from Nintendo. For the next few years, the PC Engine is where Namco is going to be putting their primary efforts, and the Famicom will be getting its ports months later. The story is that Terunosuke was a very naughty little boy. So while asleep, he's sent to hell. Now he has to make his way through the entire afterlife to receive judgment. Fortunately for him, when he got sent to hell, he also gained the ability to fire spiritual blasts. The best way I could describe Yokai Dochuki is an action platformer, but it does become a lot more complicated than that. The game is divided up into 5 regions, and for the first 4, your goal is simply to get to the next one. On the first 2 stages, just keep going to the right and you'll eventually get there. On stages 3 and 4, you have to complete a special task before you're allowed to complete the stage. And stage 5 requires that you behave in certain ways, and how well you do determines which of 6 endings you get. The B button fires your spiritual blasts, and these stun enemies for a short time. That's pretty useful against the tougher enemies, where you can stun lock them until you defeat them. I did find it pretty difficult to hit bouncing enemies with the shot, though. I wound up having to jump into the air and firing to try to catch them. If you feel the need for more firepower, you can press down to charge up your attack. Don't overcharge it though, or you'll be stunned for several seconds. It takes so long to charge that attack that I found it to be pretty useless. It's much easier to just stun enemies forever with the regular shot. When an enemy is defeated, they drop some money. And you're going to need a fair amount of that cash. Starting on the second stage, you'll find shops from time to time. You could buy health refills, attack power-ups, or permanent upgrades. The permanent upgrades are actually fairly cheap, so I'd recommend buying those quickly. You can get flippers that'll help you swim, and a potion that doubles your walking speed. The attack power-ups are more expensive, and they double your shot rate. It's useful, but not absolutely required, and so I'd skip the first upgrade and just buy the second. Another place you could spend your money are the temples. You'll find them on stages 2, 3, and 4, and they also can get you a permanent upgrade. When you reach one, you're offered to increase your piety, attack, or jump. You're not limited to choosing just one, you could get all 3 of them. The catch is, after you select what you want to upgrade, you then have to donate to the temple. How much you donate determines your time limit on the upgrade minigame. I've done it in as short of time as 5,000 gold donation, but there's a bit of a random element, and for that reason I'd recommend donating 10,000. Once you have that, you need to mash the A and B buttons as fast as you can to get that bar built up. Reach the top and you get your upgrade, then you can try the remaining ones. Piety adds 3,000 to your pious score, and that has a huge impact on what ending you get. There's other specialty rooms you could visit. There are hotels where you could spend the night to recover health. This bathing woman will give you a heart that will refill your life if you run out. And you can play a guessing game against this woman. One major trick to Yokai Dochuki is that there are a lot of hidden paths. And some not so hidden paths. As a general rule, try jumping off the top of the screen to see if there's something there. And you can also find things down in some pits. Though in later stages it's usually just monsters you have to fight to get back out again. Some of those monsters can be pretty nasty too. Like this guy who will jump on your back and ride you around while he steals your gold. Or these hands that pop out of the ground to throw fireballs. The hands aren't even nice enough to drop treasure once they're defeated. If you find yourself face to face with a boss, you can't fight them yourself. You need to hit select to summon your ectoplasmic friend, who will fly around and blast the enemies. That only works if you have a talisman though. You start with one, and for the rest you have to buy them in stores. So always make sure that you have at least one on you. Stage 3 has 2 paths, one of which has you fight the boss, the other leads you to this turtle being tormented. You can pay 30,000 gold to have the guys leave, and then the turtle takes you to the underwater palace. There you'll enjoy a burlesque show, and depart with a nice box. If that story sounds familiar to you, then you'll have a pretty good idea of what you're supposed to do with that box. The 4th stage's exit is blocked until you recover 3 talismans. They're guarded by mini-bosses that you'll have to explore to locate. When you die in Yokai Dochuki, you have unlimited continues, but you lose 3,000 piety each time you use one. So if you continue, you're essentially locked out of the best ending. And that's the game. It's not super difficult, but there's a ton of hidden stuff to find, and getting that best ending is a real challenge. The biggest problem with Yokai Dochuki is why would I play the Famicom version when I've got the PC Engine version? The Famicom expands the levels a little bit, but it's a major step down graphically, and I also feel that the controls are just a little bit better on the PC Engine. Still, if you only had a Famicom, this is a perfectly fine version.